Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new segment I am calling Good Movie Wednesday. Now, I don't know if I'm going to watch a good movie every Wednesday, but I did tonight, so I'm naming it after that. As always, Ty and I do Bad Movie Fridays on Friday, so make sure you check that out as well. So tonight, I finally got around to seeing Phantom Thread, the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Paul Thomas Anderson, probably easily my top 5 working directors right now, maybe top 3, possibly number 1, but I feel like that's a stretch. As long as Quentin Tarantino is working, as long as David Fincher is working, I think PTA, sadly, is going to fall in at number 3. Regardless, he did do There Will Be Blood, my all-time favorite movie, and the last time he collaborated with the star of this movie, Daniel Day-Lewis. So Daniel Day-Lewis is really, really amazing in this movie. You see so many actors and they're just always playing themselves. Ben Affleck is a great example of that. Tom Cruise is a great example of that. I don't feel like Ben Affleck is ever playing a role. He's just a dude who says lines. Daniel Day-Lewis is very different than that. He has this reputation of being a method actor, and he to almost to the point of madness where he gets so into a role. But it shows because he completely transformed himself, and you don't see Daniel Day-Lewis, you see whatever character he's doing. Early Robert De Niro, people talked about that as well. Now Robert De Niro is a farce of himself, so that doesn't quite count anymore. The other people in this movie, Leslie Manville and Vicky Krieps, Krieps. I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that, sadly. Miss Kreps, I can't say your name. There's other people in the movie, but really only those 3 are important. This is a very tight character drama, which is interesting to me because Paul Thomas Anderson is always, he's always done interesting character work, but in his early days with Boogie Nights and Magnolia, it was this large cast and sprawling story and lots of different pieces coming together and to make a cohesive whole. But as Paul Thomas Anderson has got a little older, he sort of focuses more on one or two people. Like it's relationships between a few people rather than a large cast and big stories. Magnolia is like 3.5 hours long. This movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it felt a smidge long. The story that needed to be told was told in that time, so I can't fault it too much, but there was a point about an hour and a half in where I was like, all right, well, this is the natural conclusion of this movie, and then there was another half hour. And as it turns out, that half an hour was crucial to the story that was being told, but if it had ended at that hour and a half point, I would have still been relatively content. This movie is, it's pretty close to a masterpiece. It's been so long since I've seen a genuinely good movie. Ty and I do Bad Movie Fridays, and it's just schlock. And then even last week when I did Bad/Good Movie Fridays, I saw 3 movies that I thought were good. I kind of liked Annihilation. I thought Game Night was a very good movie. I thought Black Panther was a very good movie. But then you see this movie, and you realize that even the good bad movies, even B plus movies are so inferior to genuinely good movies. And genuinely good movies are becoming more and more sparse, I think. Or maybe I'm just not getting out to see them. But I look at the top 10, the Best Picture nominees, and none of them shake me. None of them say this is art. And look, I'm generalizing, and I haven't seen a lot of them, and I'm sure The Shape of Water is a really beautiful, wonderful story, but it just doesn't have that thing that great movies truly have. This movie really has it. It's beautifully shot. It is a tight script. It's an interesting tale. It's got wonderfully complex characters. And it takes the time to get to know those things, and it takes the time to get to experience the beauty of the world that they've created. And my favorite trait in film that I think gets left out the most, and it's the reason I like Tarantino so much, is time. Movies are not willing to be patient. Take Blade Runner 2049 for instance. Now, that movie had a little bit of bloat. I think you probably could have cut out a little bit of that movie, but it was 3.5 hours long. Um, but it was willing to let you feel the world. It was tense and weird, and it just sort of let you soak it in. And part of what made Blade Runner so great was that it was just, you were willing to soak it in, to feel this oppression that, I want to say Agent K, but it might not have been Agent K, just his name with K was, in that movie. This obviously is not a particularly oppressive movie, although there's a little bit of elements of that. But it let you experience the world. It felt rich. And I miss that in cinema. Everything's so rushed. And it doesn't mean movies are any shorter. They're just rushed. They just gotta cram all this shit into it. But, without going into too much spoilers, it's not the type of movie that really requires spoilers. The general plot is that Daniel Day-Lewis plays this... Oh. No, Cash is causing a ruckus. And I'm out of focus now. Daniel Day-Lewis is playing a dressmaker who, he is sort of a playboy. He's like the 50s equivalent of a playboy, but it comes off to me more as aloof than anything else. Like, he wants women in his life, but he doesn't really know how to handle a relationship more than he's just dismissive of women as, like, objects per se. Although there's a little element to that. But he meets this girl, this clumsy girl, who he sort of takes on as his muse, and they start dating, and there's this weird dichotomy of her as a muse / model and her as the as his girlfriend of sorts. It's 50s version of a girlfriend. And like, she lives in the house, but nobody respects her as his significant other. Like, if I had a girlfriend here and people came over, she would have just as much authority as I would in this household. But that's not really how it works there. And the whole movie is really about this play of dominance and submission, and just the way that works in relationships and in craft, and it pertains to how, like, a man's work can reflect in a relationship. He's obsessed all the time with his work, and at first she doesn't really know what to do about it, and she tests him a little bit, and he pushes back, and she concedes the point that his work is more important than the relationship, and then she fights it a little bit, and they get into fights and stuff. At its core, this is a very simple tale, but Paul Thomas Anderson does a wonderful job of bringing out the actual depth of the story that's being told. I'm not going to say too much more on this. I want everybody to experience on their own. Super minor spoilers here. The ending is a little peculiar, not in like a grand sense, but there's certainly elements there that might make some people uncomfortable. There were people in the theater who were laughing. I live in a town full of dullards, so you kind of have to expect that to a certain degree. But like, if you're not going to take the movie seriously, you're not going to like the movie. So you have to make sure that you're the right person to watch this. It's a slow drama about 3 people, and it's not your typical relationship, and people are going to possibly find that weird. Last thing, Leslie Manville plays Daniel Day-Lewis' sister in this. I actually didn't think she had gotten nominated for an Oscar, and as I was watching this the whole time, I was thinking to myself, man, she should really get nominated for something. In my personal opinion, she steals the show. Daniel Day-Lewis is great, but Leslie Manville puts on a really amazing performance. So, watch that for her. So this is an A. This is an A+. This is the best movie I've seen in a long time. It's awesome to see a artist at the top of his craft. I wasn't in love with Inherent Vice or The Master, so they're still good movies, but they just weren't to the caliber of There Will Be Blood, which I think I said in this video is probably my favorite movie of all time. So if you get an opportunity, I think the Oscars are this week. I know Regal Cinemas are doing like a Oscar roundup thing where they're showing each one of the 10 great Best Picture nominees. So if you get an opportunity, check it out, your theater. See if you can see it before the Oscars. I don't think you'll regret it. All right. So, as always, you can find us at idiotswithmics.com. You can find me at Killer Greg on Twitter. You can find all of our stuff, WCWTF Podcast on Twitter. And if you want to watch Ty and I stream some video games, www.twitch.com/idiotswithmics. This is my show, so I don't give you a crappy outro like Ty. I'm not going to tell you to have a bad day or to not brush your teeth or whatever he tells you. I'm going to say, find a good movie and watch it. That outro sucked.